Hi, welcome to Raw Wisdom. What I'd like to do is introduce you to a very exciting site that we have on the web called Raw Wisdom and the philosophy that it presents. It's primarily a healing philosophy, and a healing for ourselves, for each other, and for our planet. And certain issues are very important when we're trying to heal ourselves, namely to heal our way of perceiving the world, to heal our way of understanding the world, so that we can integrate the whole of what we're doing to allow us to truly and deeply heal. Now, let me start with healing ourselves. When I was a young boy growing up in the United States, I came from Germany originally, my parents had a grocery store, delicatessen, they had a beach stand, and I ate the usual American SAD, which is called the SAD diet, the standard American diet. By the time I was 17, I started to develop serious health problems. And prior to that, I had been a math prodigy, which meant by the age of 12, I was doing advanced mathematics. In fact, over a single summer, I had learned how to do algebra 1, 2, 3, that is algebra, usually sometimes it's just called algebra 1 and 2, trigonometry, elementary calculus, integral and differential calculus, and by the end of the summer I passed a course at Fairleigh Dickinson University, and this is when I was 12 years old. And I won local math competitions, and then at the age of 17 I had a high fever which made my left brain shut down. And this created a great crisis because I had to drop out of school. My whole life seemed to fall apart. And it set me on a journey, on a personal healing journey, to try to understand what was going wrong in my body and to really also reintegrate the whole of my consciousness. And so the philosophy of Raw Wisdom comes out of that experience. Secondly, I was born in Germany and to a Holocaust surviving family. And as a result of that, I developed kind of a very deep feeling for anything that so blatantly harms life. And today we are still living amid an eco-Holocaust where species on a wholesale level are dying all over the planet. It's estimated that as much as 25% of all species, plant and animals, are already threatened with extinction. And some estimates go as high as 50% by the end of this century. The third major influence in my life in terms of healing and a consciousness of what is healing is that I decided to become a naturopath. And in dealing with patients, with others that I want to help heal, I see that we are in the midst of many different health pandemics. And usually the approach I take is that of natural healing, of introducing diet, of introducing lifestyle changes. But in all of these changes, there's one essential ingredient that is missing. And it's also missing in the environmental approach and in the self-healing approach, which for me is to develop an entirely different mindset. That is, it's not only important what we take into our bodies and whether we put chemicals on our skin or we take in foods that are of high quality or not, but it's also just as important what we take into our minds. What is our mindset? What is our worldview? And so the orientation of Raw Wisdom is to change that mindset, to actually heal that mindset. Now, what is the Western worldview which sets the culture, the collective understanding of the world? It is the worldview that was established 400 years ago in the 17th century. A quote I use to epitomize the kind of focus of that worldview is from René Descartes, and where he said that the crying of animals is nothing but the creaking of machines. We have literally a mechanical worldview, a machine-oriented worldview. And the essence of that worldview, in my opinion, goes against what is, and does not recognize what is the life principle in nature. And so the foundation of that mechanical worldview is the belief, is the ideology that nature essentially can be understood, its deepest secrets can be revealed through the symbols of mathematics. So what are the symbols of mathematics, right? We have the number 0, the symbol 0, the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't know if you can see this on the screen here. So. That's okay. But essentially, this is something that a mathematician, a physicist, a chemist would put on the blackboard to teach students or use in a laboratory because they're marks on a ruler or on a micrometer or some kind of measuring tool, a scale, or whatever it may be, a thermometer. Somehow nature was going to be reduced to numbers. And you ask why? Why are these little squiggles on a blackboard describing the essence of nature? And it goes back to the 17th century. And what happened was that Sir Isaac Newton began to explain how the motions of the largest objects in our cosmos, the stars, the planets, seem to follow the laws of mechanical motion as described mathematically and predictably. The second major impetus to support this worldview were experiments that showed things like the rolling of a ball down an inclined plane followed certain mechanical laws of motion. And so this worldview became ingrained. And it was very exciting in the 17th century to have this worldview because it promised now, through unveiling these secrets of nature, that man would become master of nature. He would become the ruler of all that exists around him. And in fact, that worldview delivered the Industrial Revolution. And the Industrial Revolution had many, many fabulous results that were of benefit to mankind. And among them was the fact that it created labor-saving devices that took over the mechanical chores of life, which are kind of anathema to life because life likes to be creative. And so one of the impacts of that was to ultimately abolish slavery in our civilization, because machines took on the role that manual slave labor had once taken on. The only problems with the Industrial Revolutions were really some social problems, such as the exploitation of workers, and which Marx and Engels pointed out, and apparently that was resolved early in the 20th century through progressive economics, the policies of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the creation of Social Security, all these things, the advent of attempts by socialism to reform capitalism, and all of that meant that both conservatives and liberals were going to both, maybe in slightly different ways, but they were both going to continue the fundamental development of the Industrial Revolution of our commercial society to greater heights, just kind of tweaking the wheels to make it work better. Not until after the middle of the 20th century that suddenly things start to go wrong. And before I go into what went wrong, let me explain something. Here we have, actually, I was going to get almonds, but we have two apricot seeds, which look like almonds. Now imagine that one of these apricot seeds is roasted, and one of these seeds is raw. And if I take these seeds, and I take them in a pot of soil, which I have here, right? And then I pour a little bit of water over them, right? And then I wait a week or so, and see what happens. Now one of these seeds will begin to rot because it's been roasted, because the life in that seed has been killed. And the other seed will begin to sprout. And if I plant that seed in the ground, it can grow into an apricot tree, and it can bear fruit, and the fruit will again have a seed in it, and the seed can further sprout, and it can grow cause other apricot trees to grow all around it. And so there's a huge and dramatic difference between the roasted seed and between the living seed. And yet if we take both seeds and we bring them into a laboratory and we subject them to the mathematical worldview, they will look almost identical. They will have the same potassium, calcium, magnesium, all the same minerals under a laboratory assay using our ruler and our precision measurements and the finest of scientific knowledge, and yet they're dramatically different. And what's missing is the understanding of the life principle.